A lot of these cultural crimes I've been complaining about can be blamed on the baby boomers. Something else I'm a little tired of hearing about. The baby boomers. Whiny, narcissistic, self-indulgent people with a simple philosophy. Give me it, it's mine! Give me that, it's mine! These people were given everything. Everything was handed to them. And they took it all. Fuck these boomers, fuck these yuppies, and fuck everybody now that I think of it.
What's up, everybody? Third installment, the cancel culture. Just by definition, cancel culture or call-out culture is a modern form of ostracism in which someone is thrust out of social or professional circles, whether it be online, on social media, in person. Those who are subject to this ostracism are said to have been canceled. Is that true? Of course it's true. I'll give you the examples. I'll give you the hypocrisy, and I'll give you the dangers of it. And I'll give you the inconsistencies of it. You know, in this time, in this age, you know, a lot of people really aren't digging it. And it's really showing an infantile mentality of people. So I kind of cut loose on this one a little bit. I threw in some stuff. It might not last very long. I might have to go back, redo it, and edit it. Because I put in some stuff in here that, you know, some people might find a little bit offensive or uncomfortable with. But you know, the thing about everything is that it's okay to not be comfortable with certain things. It's okay to dislike something, not like something. It's okay to, you know, have no knowledge of something as well. But some people would like to present that as a big no-no. No. You're going to understand and you're going to be like that and this is what you adhere to. I don't remember. This is asinine. You know, I've been around a while. I've been involved in a lot of cultures. I've studied a lot. I've been around the world. And whenever I look back and I can see, just stepping back from situations, and I think a lot of people just stand back and a lot of people get it. Well, they don't get it, but they see something they don't get, and it's just the density and the audacity of certain people to point fingers and pass judgment. And it just seems like mirror world. I mean, on social media, I see it. People just mocking people. And, you know, I guess in certain aspects, this video is kind of mocking. But there's got to be a way to make people understand. Because this is a daily configuration to output from media and from certain people. And I can guarantee you that any time that I've interjected anything, that it's led to a path where you're putting your ideology aside for a brief moment, and I'm trying to instill a mentality and a thought process towards love and understanding. Okay? And I try to be somewhat neutral in these things, but I'm going to... Look, if you jump over a shoe, I'm going to say you jumped over a shoe. Okay? that gets you offended and all of that, let's fine, let's talk about it, but let's acknowledge that first. So when I say that you're a hypocrite, and I mean it's blatant, I mean everybody's a hypocrite at some point. I'm sure that I've, I've exceeded my share, but when I'm called out on things, um, I admit it. You know, a lot of people know me, and especially if, I mean, I'll be quick to tell you that I messed something up or I did something. I'm pretty accountable for myself. Because one thing of knowledge is, and you're going to have to learn this, is in order as a species, an adult, or human being, to propel yourself forward and grow. It's accountability. We're going to discuss this in a little bit. But, you know, you have to not take the frame of mind that you're perfect, you're right, and you're the gift to the world, and you have all the answers. Because if you had all the answers, I want to repeat this. If you have all the answers, right, you're not a very successful person because it still sucks. I'm narrowing it down because I'm not going to do a whole lot of stuff anymore as well. But we'll talk about that on another video. It's okay. It's okay to be wrong. And if you don't know, it's okay to learn. You know, it's one thing to jump on somebody's ass and you know, try to cancel them or, you know, try to berate them, point a finger. But, you know, whenever I'm talking with somebody or I debate somebody or we're exchanging, you know, points of view, my first reaction is not, you're full of shit, you're a hypocrite, and you deserve nothing. In the nonsense since that I've seen and read and heard. That's not my first mode. My first mode is to understand somebody's thinking, what they know, what they don't know. Because if you have somebody that doesn't have the experience in life to be familiar with certain situations, you need to address that. You're missing an opportunity to speak about the subject matter and find out why do you think that? You know, if you come across somebody who happens to have stereotypes in mind or that come off like racist, you know, find out why. Because most people, they're just ignorant. Or, you know, I've discussed that in other videos about, you know, inherent, you know, inheriting racism or you know, philosophies and things like that. And it could be just that that's the way it was. You know, my grandmother grew up in a time of slavery, okay? Well, I won't say slavery, I'll say separation. Because this is a story that she told me. She grew up that way. She was taught that. That was just the way that it was. It wasn't that she had this hate in her heart. It was just she was taught to fear. And 3 months before she died, I was sitting at a table with her. And I had a friend of mine actually with us, you know. And the woman said to me, you know, and she used that word because that was what was familiar. And I understand that it's very difficult sometimes. But she was almost at tears because she had just lost my grandpa. The yard needed to be tended to and things like that. And she's like, you know, a black man moved next door and, you know, he is so nice. He's not at all like what I imagined and was told. He is this sweet guy. He comes and cuts the yard and I tried to pay him and he wouldn't have it. And that's how you can testify and prove people wrong. But I'm so glad that, you know, 3 months before she died, she was able to experience that. You know, and that's what life is about. It's about sharing experiences and not proving people right, about bad situations. It's about proving them wrong. And when you prove them wrong, it's not about arrogance. It's not coming from a place of, well, yeah, you're dumb, duh. It's not from a place of assumption. It's a place of grace. It's a place of love. It's a place of caring. It's a place of understanding. And it's real hard to present that on a plate if it's not there. And it's really hard to digest if it's filled with bitterness and anger and hate and manipulation. You understand? We are de-evolving. We're reverting. And a lot of it has to do with things that people just aren't even aware of. They're bandwagoning. They're trying to fit in. All of these factors in life. I mean, you have disasters that take place, and you have people mock people and make fun of them. Why? I mean, there's certain times when stuff is funny, but people are allowed to have an opinion unless it desecrates, defiles, demeans, harms, or injures somebody. Then a representative that is offended can come forward and say, can I say something? Can I bring out a point of view and explain to you why? And it should be discussed. It shouldn't be, oh, you know what? This is done. It's over with, But let's get on with this. And, I implore anybody listening to this to just listen. If you don't like it, that's understandable. You might not be at that point to where you want to listen. And that's the other thing. Certain people have to be at a certain point to be acceptable to information. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and this is pretty much involving, America and kind of cancel culture. And it's not something that's new. Okay. And we're going to go into that. The first thing that kind of hits my mind on a big note is school prayer. And this is kind of also, whenever I say these things about people being hypocrites or people I'm not targeting a specific group, party, member, religion, or anything. I'm speaking conglomerately. Court decision in 1962, students may pray privately and join religious clubs after school. Some people of religious belief, they rely on that. That's part of it's part of them. It's a belief. You don't have to believe whatever anybody else believes. Now, let me say something about the situation. Now, if it's something where somebody is being forced to participate in something that they don't believe in or they don't want to, it should not be enforced. However, on the other side of that, it is my thought and my thinking and my belief that people, if they want to, they shouldn't be ridiculed. They shouldn't be canceled, thrown out, ostracized for having faith. Okay? I mean, it's just like, I don't know, a food that you don't like. If they're serving, I don't know, mayonnaise and peanut butter sandwiches, I don't think people should be made to eat them. But if somebody wants to, they should be able to sit down quietly and eat it if you think it's disgusting or not. Grow up. It's adulting. Children behave that way. Children mock each other. Children. And that's what a lot of people are acting like. And the worst part about it is that behavior is contagious. It's a contagion. If anybody who has kids or has seen kids, interact with each other, I'm telling you, I've got 2 kids and it gets to on repeat for like until I intervene sometimes. And that's kind of what the situation has gotten to. Because nobody wants to say, all right, that's enough. Or, you know what? I'm going to kind of change it now. Kind of see some stuff in my own self I need to kind of change. Or maybe I'm not always right. And if I am right, maybe I should just kind of humble. That's one thing that I've never done. I've never got on my soapbox and said, you know what, I'm right and that side's wrong. I have pointed out hypocrisies, dangerous behaviors, and facts. I have also challenged anybody to tell me if I'm wrong or if you have some other information so I can be enlightened. Nobody's taken me up on that challenge. We're at a point in time where religion has been removed. And I would say mainly Christianity. But going into a subject matter that I was talking about, being at the point where it's you're being susceptible to it or, open-mindedness to it, is that there can be some seriously bad experiences from it. I've had some bad experiences within the arena of Christianity because of my mind. Oh, these Christian people, they're all good and they have these things that they have to uphold and they have these morals and all of this and they're people to like almost idolize, look up to and try to be like. That's a horrible mistake and that's a horrible thought because you can, and this goes, it's actually funny because I just enlightened my own self because you can put race to that. You can put any kind of adjective for anything. Your conception of something and your thoughts on something might not be right. You want to know why? Because they're human beings and you should judge their actions and their demeanor. And I never really did make that correlation because Christians are thought of to be as, little angels and all that. And, people that have really been psychologically injured by this because, they trusted somebody that, claimed to be Christian and they just were not good people. It can go with race. There's good white people. There's definitely some bad ones. It goes all across the whole spectrum. Same way with Democrat. Same way with Republicans. Same way with school teachers and fire truck drivers. There's good and bad in everybody. And to assume that somebody is bad because of insert your adjective that you like or whatever. To assume that somebody's bad or good based on one presentation, that's the real thing that we have to get away from. It's not really racism. It's stereotypes. Because we've been embedded by them. And that's kind of the only positive foresight that I can see coming from this cancel culture. It's the only good thing I can see about it. But you can't omit fact. You can't omit truth. The thing about it is that when you remove something that's not fair, not without any kind of discussion, not without, trying to educate people. So we've had enough of an intro. And let me get into this because it started back with, school and prayer. And that kind of tilted a lot of people. I mean, it really started way, way back. I mean, we could go to the Lutheran Bible where things were omitted and changed around to please somebody, and you can't just be so selfish that you're going to manipulate society and you're going to do this unless it's viable. It's actually viable. What do I mean by viable? I mean, obviously there should be some kind of things that should be shut down, banned, and stopped. I mean, Mein Kampf happens to be one of those books that are banned. I feel last of my knowledge, but you have to look at the embodiment of it. Do you think that the embodiment of it would be positive, have good outcomes, reflects from a place of joy and happiness or love? Probably not. But let's further this. I'll say that we live in a country, the country of America, the United States of America, with a presumption that we have certain freedoms and we are able to be, unrestricted in a lot of aspects as far as like speech and our thoughts and just the freedom to express ourselves and be who we are. And that's what we should have. I mean, again, if there's hurt or there's anger or there's things like that, it needs to be addressed. I mean, at least on a minimal introduction of conversations to it. What's the deal? Why are you so mad? What's going on here? I mean, you can't just, and a lot of people might use certain situations to try to obtain something. And sometimes it just don't work that way. So we have to be adults here. But let's get one thing straight. We're set up in a country that's not perfect by any means. But people want to mess with people, and when you start messing with people's freedoms or you start passing judgment on them, you're getting into an area that you don't want to be in.
Like management and sponsors, and they were trying to censor what we were about, and we don't really dig that. We got into it because we wanted to play music, and not have anyone tell us what to do. So with that in mind, we just didn't dig the whole thing, and it turned out that they really had the guts to do it. I was pretty surprised. They threatened us, said, "Don't say it," and I said, "Really?" I mean, isn't this the United States, man?
So you didn't actually think it was going to happen?
No, well, I kind of did when they started having guys on the side of the stage writing down what I was saying in between songs, like I was in high school or something. So it got a little silly, but
Yeah, silly. High school, childish behavior. The Muppets. I grew up with the Muppets. And are some of the comments and stuff like that a little bit racy, kind of adult oriented? Well, sure. But there's plenty of movies nowadays that have that. Just Google it or YouTube, look it up on YouTube. Name of the kids' movie and things about this movie that only adults caught or got or understand. Tons of them. Because you want to know why? As an adult, a lot of people don't want to watch cartoons. I'm a rare one. I love it. But a lot of people, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to watch Barbie. But when my 5-year-old daughter wants to watch Barbie Mermaid, you put it on. And, every once in a while they'll have something that maybe only an adult would get. And it's kind of funny. And you're like, okay, well, let's see what happens here. This is kind of interesting. Because people understand the situation of being a parent. The Muppets, I mean, I watched it and, I can't really think of something horrible that traumatized me. Yeah, there was a couple of things that were, comparatively like maybe racial. But you have to understand the racism and stereotype. If you don't know the definition of those words, you're lost. Because a stereotype is a stereotype. Okay? I just thought of another thing. Then we're going to go into my list of things that, if all this stuff is getting canceled, stuff that needs to be canceled. If you're going to tell me that this little Muppet a little puppet on a kid's show needs to be banned because of certain things. Okay? White men can't jump, needs to go. It needs to get out of here. Do you understand that in the same sense is racist? The title of a movie, White Men Cannot Jump. Are you kidding me? We need to get rid of that. It's kind of offensive. Isn't it? Should I be upset about it? I can jump. I mean, I might not be able to jump very high. And then, you know what you need to think about? What about white people that don't have legs and they can't jump? Has anybody ever thought about how that makes them feel? You just victimized a white person with no legs. You should be ashamed. And you want to take Muppets off? Of course, I'm being a very extreme because I think that, this show being yanked and considered to be a bad influence is fairly ridiculous. I think at the most, maybe some adjustments to the ratings should be implemented. But I don't think that this show is a danger. I don't think that this show is brainwashing. I don't think that this is an example that is very good. And it goes from that aspect of how I feel about it, it's being something that's taken away from me. And I grew up on this stuff. And if you know anything about the creator of this, you know who created the Muppets? Anybody? Jim Henson? Read about him. Learn who that man was and all of the good things that he's done. He was so hateful. You know who was Yoda? You know who made a lot of magic happen for a lot of kids whenever CGI wasn't available? Whenever cartoons took over a year to create, and now you just click on a computer, get a good program, and you've got your CGI. A lot of people grew up to this stuff because, that's like cutting edge. That's like, I'm not saying it's a taboo, but I'm just saying omit the parts or rearrange it. But to just throw a label on it and judge it without a hearing of the other side being representative is bad taste. Speaking of bad taste, this is kind of funny. So in the Muppets, we've described and I don't know exactly what scenes they're talking about because I haven't seen them. And another thing, Prince was on there. I'm just gonna say that. So you messing up, man. And the musical guest on the late, killing me, man. Now you're gonna get where I said the bad taste in your mouth joke from. A movie called Pink Flamingos was banned for 25 years. Explicit sexual content, animal cruelty, depiction of its lead character Divine, which is a transgender woman, eating dog shit in the end of the movie. The transgender, that doesn't bother me at all. Sexual content doesn't bother me. It's not appropriate for children, but I'm sure a lot of kids didn't watch this. Animal cruelty. Anybody cool with that? Anybody like being cruel to animals and thinks it's fun or neat or hobby sport? How about eating dog shit? The depiction of that. Who wants to watch a movie of that? How many think that that's appropriate? How many people think that's appropriate? The real funny thing is, kids might reenact that. Like I said, I don't know if kids or people might reenact that. People might emulate that. We won't throw an age on it. Because we all know that sometimes parents watch movies and the kids come in and you're watching, you know, Friday the 13th, whatever. I don't know what it just whatever, insert. And you're like, ooh, I have to turn that off. I want you to notice something about this. In 1997, you know what occurred? The ban was lifted. There's no ban on this. There's no ban on this. Its ban was for those reasons. And like, I don't really have a problem. But animal cruelty and eating dog shit, two things I don't think needs to be. But that's my opinion, right? Apparently, you guys that are hating on Muppets dig this, and this is what you're into: eating dog shit and beating animals. I mean, this is representative. This is the spectrum here. I mean, we are looking at the examples here, and this is what I'm presenting to you. Why is this okay? I don't know why either. Dr. Seuss. Really? I mean, for me personally, I think I might have read a few of them, but this is like, I mean, I don't recall. I do know that there was one that was like, talking about that they were trying to ostracize a guy, and they're like, no, you're just like us. It's like something about a star on his belly or something like that. And it was actually kind of like anti, ostracization. You're one of us. We're all the same. We're equal. So I'm not really sure on the references on a lot of this stuff because I just hear it and I'm just like, to my recollection, and I'm a special case, I guess, because I've just never had a whole lot of hate unless somebody brought it out in me, like a direct focused. I've just never been a broad person that just looks at stuff miserably and hates stuff. I have collected hate and getting mad, and little things add up and stuff like that. I have that type of anger. I don't have well, I hate this. This is going to be miserable. I'm not really like that until I get to a certain point. But Dr. Seuss, I mean, even just thinking back on Dr. Seuss, it's like, I remember it being so banal, basic, for babies type thing. I mean, Cat in the Hat. I mean, we got 3 letter words throughout the whole thing. I remember it rhyming. I mean, they say the pictures in them are very stereotyping and stuff like that. And I guess if it's harmful, I honestly, I don't recall it, and I haven't seen any pictures, but I honestly don't recall it. I mean, I recall like the Grinch, that stylized picture, and the dude with the flower pot on his head. I remember stuff like that. And I honestly don't remember anything from that book, from the subject matter or the art, that I interpreted as something racially oppressive. But here's the question. So, this is the idiocy. This is the brainwashing that's taking place. They're not being banned. They're not being canceled. No. It's a decision as to not any longer sell them. What? You're deciding not to make profit off of a creation. You're stifling an individual who brought something to the world, a vision, a creation. You're gonna make that decision for the rest of everybody that's been affected. Oh, you're not gonna sell them. So what happens to the books that are floating around? Here's a hypocrisy. You're just not gonna sell them. Is that enough? Because do you know how many Dr. Seuss books are around? So here's my question. If you're just going to stop selling them, they must not be that bad. It's the publisher's personal choice to just stop. Wait a minute. Why are you stopping? Because they're insensitive? You're just going to let the ones that are floating around now, currently, you're not going to recall them? Or you're just going to let some... it's just really kind of non-solidified what the stance is there. I think that's kind of like a safe way of saying, we're just going to stop selling them. For now, you know what I mean? For now, that's what I think that means. So once this phase of our humanity, and we've been through it before, several times. Once we get through this phase of discommunication, disinformation, and control, and brainwashing, and we realize, we wake up and go, dang, dude, you know what? Everything's not so bad. We'll be better off. Y'all will be anyway. Dude, when I saw this, I heard this, I was just like, that makes no sense. And I'm going to tell you why it makes absolutely no sense. Because you have Mr. Potato Head. How is that offending to anybody? That is his pronoun. You are not respecting his pronoun. So you saying that any Mr., this is the message that you're sending out. If you are a Mr. somebody, that is a bad thing. Whoa, that's bad. You're ostracizing people as well as a toy. Because you're saying that it's ostracizing who? Who embodies Mr. Potato Head and says, if it wasn't a Mr., I just, I don't identify. I feel like I'm excluded from Mr. To that I say, bam, you're not excluded any longer. Because there is a Mrs. representative. Now, if you really want to get technical, they're just going to call it Potato Head. And maybe they're going to have him and her parts. I don't know how they're going to do it. But on the basic core, really? I don't know how you felt like, Mr. or Mrs. is too identifying. But those are some people's pronouns. Some people choose to be Mr. Some people choose to be Mrs. And some are born that way. Now, don't you think it's kind of ostracizing those people that are born into this and accept it and don't feel the need to change? I think that not everything has to be androgynous or there's not that much of a focus on it. I don't need to know all of it, everything. Unless we're getting to a point where that's relevant, it doesn't really matter. I don't go around talking about what I do behind who our relations. If I meet you and you say, this is the deal, this is who it is, who I identify, cool. That's no. Whatever. I don't need to. This is the funny thing about it. When you create a ruckus about it, you're creating a type, right? You're making a stand on something. You want people to accept it. You want people to not make a big deal or look down on it or belittle. Then make it simple. It's just that easy. If somebody makes a big deal out of it and they're not open to it, you know what I do to people that don't like me or anything like that? Cool. See you later. If you have to work with that person, avoid them as much as you can. Accept people on character, not traits or choices. And now that we've identified Mr. Potato Head as a threat to society and definitely offensive, we need to get him out of the movie Toy Story 1, 2, and 3. We need to have that movie recalled. We need to have it taken out Disney because obviously you're not sensitive enough to the people's needs. That movie, that shit needs to go. Everybody's on board with that, right? Toy Story, down with Toy Story. That's another. I mean, oh, oh, I mean, it's just obvious that the next thing to follow is Toy Story, which I'll have you know does have stereotypes in it as well. So let's get on board. Let's get together with this because I can agree with this, but let's follow it through. Everybody ready to get Pixar shut down? I think that'd be a good move because I'm feeling a lot of insensitivity. I can't even talk. Kind of being a little bit over the top with it. Because, I mean, I think that they should have suffixes. We did. Don't you remember when everybody was like, "What's your pronoun? What do you want? What do you want me to call?" All that understanding, and now it just went out the window. No, we don't gonna have no Mr. and Mrs. We're not gonna have he, she. We're not gonna have none of that. It's just potato head, and that's what's gonna happen with y'all. You ain't gonna be any of your descriptive adjectives, anything like that. That's the human right there. What's up, human? Maybe you'll still be able to have your name if it goes extreme, you know. Maybe it'll just be like a number. You know, whenever I grew up, it was a lot of culture. And I mean, you know, maybe there was tension or maybe there wasn't. I mean, there was, when I grew up, there was a whole lot of understanding and growth and you know, openness and hanging out that was taking place because, you know, before my era, there was still a little bit left over from, you know, separation. But, you know, in the 70s, you know, 60s, it started, you know, mingling. In 70s, there was more mingling. And by the 80s, it was like, you know, there was like, hey, man, check this out. I mean, Run DMC and Aerosmith, you know, there was a lot of, you know, walls that were taken down. Music was entered into, like the mainstream. And, you know, there was a whole, you know, that the time was amazing. But there were so many damn racist movies, cartoons. I'm talking about Thundercats, Panthro. Come on, man. If you didn't know, you could not visit the 80s with your mindset of the 2020s and not just be like flabbergasted, I guess. But you grow up and it's teaching you, and it didn't teach me hate or I don't like that robot in Transformers because Jazz is black. Did you know that? Jazz is black. No. It teaches that everybody's not the same. And that robot Jazz, he's pretty cool because he's a Porsche. His Porsches are cool. That's what you're robbing and enforcing on society. When I grew up, was the introduction of cultures merging and learning. What you deem as a threat or demeaning because that character can be identified as a race or a type of person, it shouldn't offend anybody unless it's demeaning or hurtful. But because a character is I mean, and whenever I say hurtful or demeaning, I mean hurtful or demeaning. I don't mean in a stereotypical type of way. Because you want to know something? Let's talk about stereotypical kind of ways. And the way that it has been horrified, you know, well, not horrified, but depicted as atrocious. And let's look at the way that it's been depicted in light. I don't want to do the atrocious. I think that's been out there enough. Let's look at things realistically and for what it is. And if any of this material offends you, I apologize. I'm trying to make a point, and it's not that we should be accepting of all this behavior, but Does anybody remember the movie Silver Bullet? How about Stir Crazy? I mean, can anybody name another movie that these guys were in together? Richard Pryor, one of the funniest men at that time, along with Gene Wilder. Yeah, the guy on the left is actually white. And in this stunt, he wore blackface. Is it insensitive? Is it derogatory? Or is it comedy? Is it so over the top that it's comedy? Is it hurtful? I don't know. Maybe somebody is hurt by it. And some of the things that I see people doing on their social media or TV, I think it's hurtful, and I don't return to it. I don't absorb anything from it other than, well, that's not for me. I don't agree with that. I have a standpoint on that now, but I'm not going to jam it down people's throat. I suggest maybe watching this movie because if you understand the relationship of these two people, they had a wonderful relationship. They were good friends, and they worked together on several movies, and they're funny as all hell, and they're good people. Okay? I don't think that this would really fly over if this was a brand new episode of anything where a white guy goes into the bathroom and they're trying to get past the cops on go on a train, and the disguise they come up with is to. So if this is offensive though, then I can also I can see your point. We need to get rid of that movie, White Girls. Offends me. I mean, that's just. I mean, it's even in the title, bro. White Girls. Got to get rid of it. But let's listen to Gene Wilder, because he's a really good person. He's one of my favorite people. What does he have to say about some stuff?
And Willy Wonka, there's some darkness in that role that you added to the character, and I think that probably scared some moms away when the movie first came out.
It did, because it wasn't a commercial success.
No, which always surprised me when the movie came out. The movie didn't do that well, and I think it was because there's some scariness to it a little bit.
The kids weren't scared.
Right.
The mothers were scared.
Right. On behalf of the kids.
On behalf of the kids, but the kids knew it was a morality play.
Right.
And where do you draw the line? And they wanted the line drawn.
Right.
The mothers were afraid of it.
Right.
Did you catch that? Just like it was in those cartoons, and just like what I was saying about how it was represented for me. I don't need somebody to intervene for me. I'm a big boy. Children might need somebody to help them along the way. But I know what I am. I know what I like. I know that it's not wise to hurt people or ostracize people or things like that. Your fear that I might be inclined to because of a Dr. Seuss book is absurd and infringes on my freedom of choice. You've made a choice for me. And that, well, I think it's wrong. So you see, it's not just an argument about things. It's not, I'm worried the government's going to take away all the freedoms. You're making decisions for me that I don't think are warranted. And I think that people that they don't like it, they need to avoid it, because what do you think that I do with the things that I don't like? I mean, it's 2021, right? It's very interesting aspects of this whole thing. I'm trying to bring a bunch of different aspects for you to consciously think about. But do you dismiss it? Am I crazy? Conspiracy theorist? Whatever. So, again, in the 80s, 90s, it was just crazy. Almost kind of shocked by you, because it was just like, so blackface is bad, right? Let's get rid of this one right here. This was on the chopping block. You do know that, right? Whenever the whole blackface thing came out, this was to be on the chopping block. But it survived. Why? What is different? Oh, it's funny. And people generally accept Robert Downey Jr. He's Iron Man. And what I heard this quote, it's genius. It's an actor playing an actor who's playing a black actor, who's playing different actors. You know, but the thing about it is you can't have a sliding door on what's okay. I mean, as far as this is, because this is like you're making a standard and then you're going back in time. Let me say something else. How is it that the Dr. Seuss books were okay all the way up until now? They've been around for like 70 plus years. Pretty weird. And what about this famous scene?
But you know what's on my mind right now? It ain't the coffee in my kitchen. It's the dead in my garage.
Oh, Jimmy, don't even worry
Well,
about
no,
it.
look at me. Don't think about anything. I want to ask you a question. When you came pulling in here, did you notice a sign on the front of my house that said dead George?
Jimmy, you know I ain't seen no shit.
Did you notice a sign in the front of my house that said dead storage?
No, I didn't.
You know why you didn't see that sign?
Why?
Because it ain't there, because storing dead ain't my fucking business. That's why.
So obviously we need to put a ban on this movie. And I'll say this. It borderlines pretty much derogatory. It's not using it in light, funny humors or witty or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I remember whenever I was young and I saw this, I pretty much just assessed it as being said as just to shock value, in all honesty. So why is that? Why is that sliding in? I mean, Quentin Tarantino makes great movies, but he's allowed to just drop that, and it's acceptable in society, and it's not racist. You can't have a double standard like that, bro. It doesn't go that way. I mean, I know what's up with it, and that shit. Who gave the pass on that? Because that's not how it works. I'm telling you now. I don't know how it hasn't been raised into question. You think kids cool to see that? I saw it when I was younger, but I remember how old it was, but maybe I'm not doing the math right now. It's taking a long time to get this one out. There's no accountability. There's no lockdown. I mean, it's just free for all. But let's go further now. Deeper. As you know, this actress was kicked off Mandalorian. And this is the most ridiculous. Is cancel culture is just adult accountability. So you're canceling these things. How is that accountable? How is that accountable? And I don't want to hear the stories about she did so much and all this nonsense, because this is a distraction comment. And if Disney, since you're canceling stuff and firing people, we need to get rid of this guy. I know I've said it once, but I mean, this would be accountable for this. Having this on the TV screen, it's obviously affecting a lot of things. I mean, it is somebody's opinion that is offensive, or that needs to have some kind of renaming. And again, something that's been around for a long. It didn't used to be made out of plastic all completely. It was actually like things you stuck in a potato. Only bad thing is you can only play with it when you had a potato. That's why they turned it to plastic. It would last longer. Booyah. Older than dirt. No pun intended on that. This is the post that was put up. And basically, it's just saying how, I'm not going to get involved in the content. I will say that I don't think that somebody should lose their job over it. Somebody in getting fired from your job is not being held accountable for something that was said like that. But that was her way of communicating. I don't think you take somebody's livelihood for it. I don't think that's the accountable thing to do. But here we go. You want accountability. You want people to open their eyes and new, brave new world. Well, it's time. I want you to be accountable for what you're about to view. Because I remember people having a hissy fit and trying to impeach Trump because he incited a riot, right? On the Capitol. Because he's a bad person. And he incited riots and he brainwashed people and things of that nature. He promoted violence. I want you to see something. And I want you to explain to me. And how come there's not been any movement? Did you know that the Republicans prior, this was back in 2 years ago, on the 2018, they were harassing people. Do you know that people were getting harassed at their houses? Not at a public building, at their homes, where their children lay their heads. But that's okay with you? That doesn't sound like you're taking accountability and saying, you know what, we did that. You did that. Tearing up property, businesses, setting fires. But yet, oh, well, that wasn't really the protesters. Okay, so it wasn't the protesters. Who was it? And why is it okay? Do you not have the accountability that you were discussing over a meme? Really? And I'll say this. I remember that it happened way, way back with Kevin Hart. You can't just select who you want to ostracize and cast out. People are allowed to say things and have opinions. It might not be the best opinion. It might be stupid. But you know what? A lot of stupid people that I know, they've worked themselves out of people's, lives. And that's what happens. They grow up miserable, alone, or with people who are the same way. Misery loves company, is what they say. Well, there's a reason why they say that. The Democrats were proclaiming that riots are part of change, right? That's what they said. Look at the date here. So if you're saying that Trump was inciting riots, maybe it was just part of the country's march towards progress. Have you thought about that? Or do you know this publication would even put out? Are you aware of this stuff? Because I know that a lot of people are just kind of like, they're so smart that they're not listening. They can't hear you because their mouth is moving. They don't take the time to kind of look at every angle and really stop and analyze it. I've never, in any of my, anything, said that racism is okay. I do think that we mistake stereotypes with racism, and stereotypes are understandable because people have certain stereotypes. That's just the way it is. I mean, if you have a jock, like a football player from high school, there's certain stereotypes that go with it. And it's so acknowledged within the world, they call it cast typing for actors. If you fill that role and you really sell that role because you follow all the traits and stereotypes. Stereotypes are not evil, and stereotypes do not automatically imply racism. If it's derogatory, possibly, maybe. But you can't pick and pull what you want and call everything racism. And you can't keep bearing these grudges on other people.
Gonna insist on it. If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Already, you have members of your cabinet that are being booed out of restaurants, who have protesters taking up at their house, who's saying no peace, no sleep. No peace, no sleep. And guess what? We're going to win this battle because while you try and quote the Bible, Jeff Sessions and others, you really don't know the Bible. God is on our side. On the side of the children. On the side of what's right. On the side of what's honorable. On the side of understanding that if we can't protect the children, we can't protect anybody. And so, let's stay the course. Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
See, I heard that and I said, what a moron this guy is. You have the right to protest. It's protected. But you know what? People, the right of the people peaceably to assemble peaceably. That's where it says it. How about in the Constitution? There you go. It's shown. ACLU, Texas.org. There you go. Let me educate you. You don't have the right to tear shit up. You don't have the right to destroy property. You have the right to peaceable. What does that mean? Peaceful, tranquil, adjustment of dispute. Inclined, disposed to avoid strife or distension. Is that what was going on? This is the problem. Why would you have somebody? Why would you listen to a news station that would be this ignorant and stupid? Did he really say, show me where it says that? Now what enough showed him? Are you going to be accountable? Because you're wrong. And on top of that, you're going to use the name of God is backing you, backing the children? What? You confused me, lady. That's confusing. Anyway, this is hard to digest. I fell asleep throughout this whole thing, so I apologize. It sounds like I'm mumbling half of it. Sounds like I'm falling asleep, and it's because I was. So this is about, well, this is after I've rested, so there you go. And hopefully this will benefit somebody. I'm going to shut this down, and I'm about done.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
Now, there's one thing you might have noticed I don't complain about. Politicians. Everybody complains about politicians. Everybody says they suck. Yeah! Well, where do people think these politicians come from? Universities, and they're elected by American citizens. This is the best we can do, folks. This is what we have to offer. It's what our system produces. Garbage in, garbage out. If you have selfish, ignorant citizens, you're going to get selfish, ignorant leaders. And term limits ain't going to do you any good. You're just going to wind up with a brand new bunch of selfish, ignorant Americans. So maybe it's not the politicians who suck. Maybe something else sucks around here, like the public. So I have solved this little political dilemma for myself in a very simple way. On Election Day, I stay home. I don't vote. Fuck them. Fuck them. I don't vote. Two reasons I don't vote. First of all, it's meaningless. This country was bought and sold and paid for a long time ago. The shit they shuffle around every 4 years doesn't mean a fucking thing. And secondly, I don't vote because I believe if you vote, you have no right to complain. People like to twist that around, I know. They say, well, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. But where's the logic in that? If you vote, and you elect dishonest, incompetent people, and they get into office and screw everything up, well, you are responsible for what they have done. You caused the problem. You voted them in. You have no right to complain. I, on the other hand, who did not vote, who, in fact, did not even leave the house on election day, am in no way responsible for what these people have done and have every right to complain as loud as I want about the mess you created that I had nothing to do with.